was a shirt that was made by the community that said "We want Zoom."
Oh, did it? Oh, okay.
So I bought one.
Oh, cool.
That's all it says.
Wow, somebody in the community actually tried to make that shirt?
I don't know. I'll go get it and you can tell me.
I actually, when you said that, I thought you meant Zoom, like the video
I
conference.
thought it was like the blocked eye. Yeah, I thought that for a split second. I was like, oh yeah, Zoom, like the feature in LabVIEW.
No, he means, I think that's what he means. He means
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sam, we need you in just a tad. And can you guys get a little closer so I'm not in Eli's lap?
Hey, am I moving? Who moves which way?
No,
There we go.
blocking Steve.
Steve just lurks in the background.
And then Steve, are you okay lurking in the background?
I'm fine.
All right.
Well, I don't think we've met.
Oh, you haven't met?
Nice to meet you.
You haven't met either, yeah.
Oh.
Sam.
So you have a good time?
email enough, too.
Sure.
Excellent. So we haven't started yet, but the recording started, right?
Yeah.
So we are ready to go in. You can give us a 3, 2, 1.
Me?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, welcome to this month in LabVIEW, take number 2 from the one and only GDevCon conference. Steve, wave in the back there. Our professor of pragmatism. We've got Sam, our architect of adventure. We have to come up with new names. Greg and Eli. So I'll come up with a name before the end. Everybody has to have a name.
Token ball guy.
Eli, token ball guy. Greg, full head of hair and a beard. Excellent. All right. So, Greg, what are you doing in on?
At the moment, I work on the LabVIEW R&D team.
Sweet. How long have you worked on the LabVIEW R&D team?
So I worked there about 20 years, and then I went off and did academic products.
Okay.
And I came back for about the last 5 years.
Whoa, that's good to know. You did the academic products. We'll have a conversation after this. Awesome. Are you loving it?
Yes.
Excellent.
GDevCon's great.
Excellent. I was actually asking about, do you love being back in R&D?
Oh, well, I was never out of R&D, but
Okay, but it was just academic R&D.
I'm a programmer now.
I think programmer
It's
now.
my day job.
I think it's helpful as a frame of reference. Your first LabVIEW version you worked on was
LabVIEW 2.
LabVIEW
Yeah.
2.
So we should have had you on yesterday when you had your LabVIEW 2 shirt on.
It's a hotel.
Okay. You can always go back and get it.
An academic shirt. NXT.
And I worked on this one too, so
Okay.
this is mine sort of.
Something I know about Greg is he's really passionate, really involved with the first robotics community. I think he mentored a couple of teams, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely very involved with that.
Excellent. Very, very good. Eli.
Hey.
So everybody knows you from way back in the day when you were the amazing LabVIEW product manager, getting LabVIEW accepted on so many amazing large complex projects. So, and now you're in the director of community software?
Yep.
All right. So how's your job now different from what it was then?
Well, so I guess for context, I was in, as you said, product management for the better part of 15 years or so. And then I left LabVIEW in the software world to go focus on our EV business for a little bit. And I think so I came back about 6 months ago, and if you consider what was happening at the time, I think we were acknowledging we need to return our focus to our core products, and the LabVIEW especially. And so I was asked to help with that. And a big part of the focus on LabVIEW is really recognizing the value and the knowledge of our users and of our community, and really tapping into that. So the nature of the role is actually similar in some ways to what it was, but now it's really focused on, we can't just do it all ourselves. To achieve scale, we have to work with the community, and tap into the knowledge and the IP and the efforts of events like this, and the IP that's created. So my role kind of sits at the nexus of product management and really doing a lot of those same motions, but in collaboration with the community.
Hence our conversations on LabVIEW Center of Excellence at some point.
And the open source software,
open source, you name it.
user groups, there's lots of stuff we can talk about.
So I think what's fun though, as well, that you probably notice is in your previous role, you were helping really grow the community. You were a very key part of that. You were helping ensure that the value of LabVIEW was recognized for larger applications, larger complex applications. And now you're rolling into this and you're like, wow, this is what the community has done, and there's this amazing community. So it's gotta be fun for you.
Yeah, it's like coming home in some weird way. It's amazing to see, I think, how much the community has done. And GDevCon's a great example of that. And what you guys have built with this awesome event is really admirable. Now you've got, three replica events.
next year.
4 maybe, yeah.
We're gonna run 4 next year. I say we as if I'm an official part of GDevCon.
You're
But
the inspiration of these.
Community.
Yeah, I come with the inspiration.
We do this as a community.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
And I think that's what's so inspiring to me is to come to events like this, see what our customers are doing, meet with people, and just hear where they've taken the state of the art with LabVIEW, both technologically and from a community engagement standpoint. And I think now our position is just how do we enable that? How do we facilitate that, right? And in some cases get out of people's way and make sure we're focused on the core technologies that they need to be successful. So it's really inspiring to see what they're doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So Greg, what projects are you working on right now?
I am making improvements to diff tools.
Super.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was showing it to a customer just a minute ago.
Okay, great.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else recently. Not long ago, we did the quick change tools and Zoom and stuff like that. And then in between, there's lots of bug fixes and some old code.
Oh, that was fun.
Of course it is.
You gotta go refactor once in a while, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate those efforts
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot.
Greg was one of the guys during the days of NXG saying, we can do Zoom in CurrentGen. And then he was finally given the chance to prove himself right. Like, told you so. So, good job.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So everybody is really excited. Yep, it's because of Greg we had to.
Yeah, no, it is.
And I don't want to know who crushed it when you could have done it back then, so we just won't ask
I'll
that
just say it wasn't
question.
me. How's that?
Yeah, there we go. It wasn't you. Yeah, it wasn't your choice.
Am I right, Greg, in saying that you were central to Lego Monster? Or am I wrong?
You were right.
Hey,
I was
memory works.
I was the tech lead on the NXT product, and then I was involved in the design of the EV3 and also the WeDo. I was one of the lead developers.
What a great product. That was such a great product.
Excellent. So, highlights from day 2 of GDevCon.
Well, I'll say first, as I'm furthest back, Eli, well, there was 2 things for me. We were showing people the eyes that nobody knew about. That's funny.
What's that?
Weaver did a thing on memory allocations and memory arrays and things, and he showed a little VI. He goes, oh, you can't find this on the planet and you can't find this on Quick Drop. And
He gets the Waldo Award.
does.
He found Waldo.
There you go.
That was
very funny because I just know, I know the man, and it just makes me laugh every time he'll find something. And how did you find it? Oh well, this enumerated type for this particular thing appears, it changes, so I check which changes there are. And I go looking for this.
Yeah.
It's very funny. And it was a very funny presentation as well. And Eli's presentation was very upbeat, and I like the upbeat. I like the energy. I like the this is what we need. We need positivity and energy and upbeatness.
You give me a time window of, what was it, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I had a lot to pack in there, so that's, I had to
And I enjoyed your last slide. That made me
I
laugh.
was always really good at keeping my 15 minutes into 10 minutes.
Nancy, don't even talk.
That's not what I've heard.
Okay, there was just a wee bit of sarcasm in that one.
No, the fun thing about the one that you mentioned, Weeble's presentation too, was I think I then saw that as a great example of the value of having R&D folks here, because then Chethan and Greg were like, actually, and I think you guys were probably the 2 only people in the room that could tell Weeble something he didn't already know, right?
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I heard, I had to run off before that time. But I've got one more, which is a
Okay, you hit your limit, but you can have one more.
a very unexpected thing happened in because we've been asking our exhibitors to bring engineers, not marketing people. 2 of our exhibitors have come up with a joint product,
Oh, wow.
and it came out of GDevCon in Glasgow.
Oh, wow. That's
And
fantastic.
at the end of the year, they're going to release, I don't know whether one of them, but it will be one of their products that talks to one of their, the other products.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really.
Was that the Gander presentation we just saw?
No, this
No,
is
something
Beckle from
different.
Pickering.
Oh, okay.
Pickering going out.
So it's a
I don't
secret?
know whether I'm allowed to.
Okay, we're spilling the beans here.
That'll have to be for tomorrow's
I'll let them edit it in their own time. But it'd be so cool, you know, because I didn't even think that could possibly be something that couldn't happen. It's just, but that's what you get with engineers in a room.
Well, and like one of my big highlights has just been some of the conversations that I've had because, you know, some of us are working with CTI and I have some ideas and things I want to try to do. I also have something that I want to build for my day job, and I had all the right conversations to figure out this is what I need to do next, and then we go do that, and then we go do that. And so, like Sam, you've talked about it. It's like, yeah, the videos are going to be out there. Anybody can watch the videos afterwards.
Yeah.
The reason we're here is because of those hallway conversations, getting a chance to talk to you, Greg, and then you have that perfect example of the product that is coming out. So, awesome. Highlights, Sam.
Along that theme, I went for a run this morning, so I got here late, and I did not actually watch any of the presentations this morning. I spent my time in the hallway talking. So.
I did a lot of mine in the hallway talking. I also spent a fair amount of time cleaning up the flood in my flat today that happened. So walking across the entire flat, that was fun. And then the conversation. So, what are some of the feeling or highlights? And then I have a couple of other questions. What highlights come to mind for you today or yesterday?
So yeah, the detail, the knowledge that like Weavy and I forget the other guy's name showed with profiling. It's really cool to see that knowledge out in the community because there's most people on the live team don't even know those things. Awesome. And then I was talking to Julian about the open source thing and the logistical stuff we might do to make that more straightforward.
Okay.
So that was a good conversation.
Excellent. So figuring out logistical stuff from the NI perspective. Okay, good. What are some of the weirder questions or fun questions you've gotten this week so far?
I think it usually starts with, hey, let me show you something. And they open up their laptop and they just want to show you their thing that they're way down in the weeds.
Yeah.
So they were just showing the panel that's all one picture control and they're faking controls and stuff like that. And then somebody's going to do that with graphs in a minute. So it's usually something along those lines.
Along those lines, yeah. So one of the things that we want to do moving forward is actually have short interviews with the NI customers that are doing some really cool stuff. And what really comes to mind for you for some of the either really cool apps that you either have seen here or just in your career, and then what are some of the weird things you've seen people do with LabVIEW? I'm asking that question kind of to all of you guys too.
Yeah, I have a few that jumped out. And I always have to remember what I'm allowed to talk about versus not, because I get to see a lot of, that was what I opened with in my presentation, was part of what inspires me is like the breadth of really cool applications I get a front row seat to. By the way, I do want to speak to my highlights too at some point, but to answer your question, I think top of the list has to probably be, and you're saying of all time, not just from the conference?
Yeah, just
CERN is obviously a really impressive one. I think we were all there together for the CLA Summit many years ago.
At CERN,
I remember there was one that was like a 3D controlled experiential movie chair that was being controlled with LabVIEW. And so they a lot of people, like I always get to see the demos and experiences. So they sat me in the chair, they put in this headset, and they had, I think it was a compact rear controlled chair.
Is that Jeffrey Travis?
I distinctly remember bright red chairs. It was in California.
Yeah, it might be Jeffrey Travis.
Might be. Okay. Okay. A few others come to mind too, but I mean, lots of really exciting, cool applications. I mean, the vast majority are tests, right? Manufacturing tests. But even still, like most of our customers aren't building toasters, right? They're building really sophisticated, high technology products that require a lot of tests. So.
And I love the fact that Jack Dunaway has posted on LinkedIn, and we all know that LabVIEW is being used at SpaceX. And if you want to know where it's being used, you can look up Jack Dunaway on LinkedIn, and he will show you. I'm hiring LabVIEW people, and these are the different places where LabVIEW is being used. So that one's always a fun one to talk about.
Cool account.
What's that?
Oh, just SpaceX obviously is a really, really cool.
Yeah, that's always really fun.
Stuff. Highlights?
Yeah, highlights.
I think there's a lot that I'd like to highlight. There's like this the overall impression. Like I think you come here and you just leave feeling so enthusiastic and excited. And certainly I think the depth of knowledge that Greg spoke to. But some specific examples, there was 2 huddles yesterday in open source, which obviously I care a lot about because it's one of my pet projects. It's not even a pet project, it's one of my core responsibilities is to steward the open source initiatives. So I think just seeing the level of engagement and discussion, those were led by Olivier and Alan Smith. So it wasn't like I was leading the discussion, but it was really great to see. They were down in the details of like, all right, if we're gonna actually facilitate collaboration, what are the mechanicals, the very specific tactics involved with facilitating that across a team? So that was awesome and productive. And then frankly, Steve, too, what you showed me this morning with CTI, I've obviously been aware of it, but I think the more I see it, the more I begin to understand how this can be used in so many advantageous ways. And I think that got some light bulbs flickering on, some things I want to follow up on.
That makes me happy.
Even inclusive of like how we can leverage that to get new users to next year's event.
Yes.
Potentially, right? That was a topic you and I spoke about.
Yeah, we got a lot out of it. I mean, we've talked about it as a team as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got traction on that.
So if you're watching this and you came to this GDevCon, next year bring a friend. Somebody who may not even know how to use LabVIEW. And we're ideating.
We want to teach them.
Yes, we want to teach them. I don't want to speak out of turn.
We should talk about that for GDevCon in A too.
Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be great. So, Greg. Oh, did you finish with your highlights?
I finished my highlights.
Okay, so good. You said you're working on the diff tools. What do you want to tell us that you can tell us?
Well, the focus is trying to make sure that the information is more understandable. If you're the person like trying to look at a diff today,
Okay.
it's again, it's a Waldo game, trying to figure out like what actually changed. So I think we made some really big improvements there, and also make sure they fit into the various workflows, because these days people use so many different tools to, from like small teams, enormous teams, simple code, complex code. So we're trying to make sure they have the flexibility there to get the output from diff that they need, so that it enhances their productivity.
Got it.
So an idea that I've had, I know there's lots to talk about AI, but I think that would be an area where AI would be really nice if you had a thing where like, oh, they changed these 4 or 5 BIs, right? Instead of searching through, you could just get a summary that says, oh, they added error handling here, and now this error shows up over there. Like something like that, I think would be a really useful, good use of AI. So it's just my.
I think that's one of those we'll have to take it as feedback, but it certainly is generally aligned with the spirit of some of the AI research that we're doing. Great. Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
So I think making the report more useful has obviously been like a perennial challenge. And I've spent a lot of my time talking about, hey, everybody should use source code control. I think we're there, by the way. Everyone uses source. So now like some of these incremental improvements are the next step, CI being another one. But in the context of diff, there's so much of the workflows now are through thin client interfaces. And so is there any workflow you can envision supporting where like that report is then easily consumed and presented in a browser-based experience?
That's what I was getting at by fitting your people's workflows and the tooling they use. The difficulty is that a lot of this, because it's in a web browser, is actually somewhat shut down and closed. They'll let you put in text or an image, but nothing.
Oh, like the tools like GitHub and like what they will actually allow you to do.
GitHub, GitLab, Azure stuff, and on and on and on. So trying to figure out what, again, resources we can provide so that they can either be put into the browser, either in automated or manual fashion.
Without link to an HTML report.
Well,
and the HTML report is actually the thing I'm working on right now. So we produce a nice HTML report of everything modified. So you can get a link or you can post. Yeah.
but one of the things I've done, because I love ChatGPT 4.0 as my best
All
friend.
the time. Yep.
All the time. But I've gotten it to, and I asked it a couple times, write me a LabVIEW program that does blah, blah, blah. And what it will do is it will tell me the function, and it will tell me the inputs and the outputs. So even if it's not LabVIEW per se, it can still give me a lot of information. So I'll be curious to see what you guys come up with, that even from a text, just pure text, can tell me a lot about the difference between two things that I'm comparing. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm not working on that personally, but it is being worked on.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
There's a lot of potential with AI tools, but also think it's going to take a while to shake out like what's feasible. You know.
Oh yeah, it takes time. You don't want to rush it out too quickly.
Right.
Because we all know that certain individuals get a lot of business rewriting poorly done Python designs that GPT created.
Future business.
Yes, future business. So what else do you need from us in the community? What additional information or use cases or personas or what do you feel like you guys need so that you can?
So that's why I was talking to Julian. So he's a maintainer.
Okay.
And the first one I've met here.
Okay.
Who like brings in input from contributed from other individuals, and then it bottlenecks him to get it all integrated and into the upstream. You know,
Random merging and branches to the main.
Right.
Okay.
And so, like, focusing on making him productive, I think is something that I realized when I said to the presentation that we needed to sort of include him as a potential user, an important one. It's not just the in-contributors who are diffing their own little changes.
Right.
But he's just getting stuff thrown at him
From all over the place.
from a variety of skill sets and,
Right.
you know, features and
It's interesting, if I put on my product management hat for a second, which arguably I never really take off. The workflows around diff and merge are interesting in the LabVIEW world because there are these things that we know are uniquely challenging to graphical programming that we're inclined to go fix, but then sometimes when we talk with people in the community, they've built their workflows in such a way that they just know to avoid it. And so they're like, oh, I'm not concerned about that because I found a solution. Like, I don't ever merge VIs.
If they enforce modularity, which is kind of an outcome of difficult combination, difficult merges, then yeah, in some ways they've already fixed the problem, but they still occur and it's painful when they do occur.
Right. And so I think when we go and we ask people, like, do you care about this? Sometimes we hear, no, I don't, because I just never allow that situation.
And the day-to-day review of like,
But we may still want to do it.
Right.
of
Right.
just what did I change? Is this really ready for submission? That is something that still needs to be.
Yeah, that's a core.
So I have a curious question then. Is there also work going into the merge tool, or is it just diffing?
So I've just done research in merge, trying to understand how it works, and but yes, it is scheduled for us to try to specifically deal with merge as a more command line tool that will just put the changes together in a merge if there is no conflict. Because right now it was never envisioned that way.
Yeah.
It was an interactive tool for showing you this three-way merge.
Right.
And I think it's actually a lot more value in it being it handles the easy, hopefully the majority of the merges, and you still have to go to diff and do hard stuff when you get a conflict.
So one thing I've noticed is if I have a VI that say has an event structure and say has like one timeout case, and I hand it to two people and they both add a case, it detects that as like the way it does the comparison, it detects that as like a conflict instead of just like sandwiching them on top of each other. So that's just one.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a specific example.
I believe our focus right now, if I remember correctly, I think there's VI level merge and there's, for lack of a better word, container level merge, like libraries and classes.
Yeah, there is that too. That is another actually big problem. There's no way to view a diff from a library other than like the text diff.
Yeah, so somebody else is working on those.
Yeah, that's
So
also
that's
another issue. Yeah.
I believe, and I should know this, but I believe the focus is more on the container level merge right now.
Okay. Yeah, well,
It's split? Okay.
yeah, well, the
Split.
container level thing, I think people have realized like don't add VIs to classes in two separate things, and then you avoid that. But
I would assume, validate for me, most workflows for teams of LabVIEW developers kind of compartmentalize at the library layer. You work on library A, you work on library B.
that is a general thing that people do. Yes.
When you can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to something you said, and Sam, I also want to plug your training that you have. So I think you correctly summarized that a lot of people in the lab community just avoid the things that we know are problematic, and so our workflows are built around that. But at the same time, when somebody else who is more familiar with how easy it is to do some things in GitHub with Python, we want those people, when they are exposed into LabVIEW, it feels as normal as possible, at least the workflows within GitHub or GitLab. So just a comment on that.
That's the goal, right? Like, CI is probably a good example of that.
Right.
CI is, I think increasingly expected and required for, in the spirit of large, complex applications. CD as well, or CR, whatever we call it. And we're actively looking at how we facilitate those types of workflows. And in my capacity, I'm especially motivated by the open source initiative.
Right.
Because we're putting these libraries out there with the intent of enabling collaboration. But to truly be successful, we have to bring it back into the released products. And to do that, we have to have some standards as far as what's acceptable submissions and what meets our bars of quality.
Right.
And so we want to automate that. So my goal is both that we are able to automate that and we're able to demonstrate best practices so that people can go to the icon editor and the Actor Framework repo and basically emulate the workflows and the CI infrastructure. And
Awesome.
Credit to Jim Kring and his tireless efforts to actually containerize LabVIEW in a Linux-based Docker container to facilitate the CI workflows using Pariah for icon editor. So we're still putting the finishing touches on that, but it's really impressive what he's done. He's obviously leveraging years of experience with VIPM.io, and the hope is that that's something we can use for the community to build off of.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely fantastic.
You stole my comment because I was gonna say it would be great if those tooling was made available.
Yeah, no, the goal is I know people are going to come to Icon Editor, and I expect that they will want to use that as a template for how they then manage their LabVIEW libraries.
That's perfect.
So I want it to be that.
Well, it may even be worth making a template project that then people can just clone, and you can even use it internally for now. Like, hey, this is the next project we're going to do. Let's clone this template, drop whatever LabVIEW code in there, and now it's ready to be.
Potentially,
Then streamline the process on all sides.
Yeah. So Icon Editor is the first. Actor Framework is close behind, and so it's already kind of the guinea pig of inheriting the processes of the editor.
How much can we transfer from one to the other, and how do we make it generic?
Yeah. So we've got like Alan Smith in all of the Icon Editor meetings so that he can consume and listen and replicate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really like that slide, by the way, where you showed the workflow and where things were.
Oh, my life board game slide?
I thought that was an excellent slide. I actually sent it to my group and said, that's an excellent slide.
Oh, wow. That was...
So, yeah, no, it was clear and it was showing that lessons are being flowed down, and it was all positive, I thought, from that perspective. So it was really good.
High praise. Appreciate it.
Good slide.
Sam, you have some great learning that people can tap into for anyone that has not yet onboarded to GitHub.
Yeah. No, I do have a using Git course. I think I gave you a copy. Did I give you access? If not, I should. I know Nancy has access. Yeah, it's like 7.5 hours of video content. It goes over all the intricacies of using Git with LabVIEW. So.
Is that Olivier was mentioning one? Is that different?
Olivier has his own in-person Git training, so he does it for a day. So if anybody wants in-person training from Olivier, go talk to him. If you want to sit and watch videos on your own time, come talk to me.
Have you guys compared notes to see if you're recommending the same things?
We have not, but we did talk about it on the run this morning a little bit. So
You should get both of them into one of these.
Yeah, and they will also get York in here too, because he has his RAD tool, which is an existing tool chain that his customers are using. So that'd be fantastic.
The big thing that Olivia and I came up with though in our talk was that a lot of people know a couple of commands and they already do one small workflow and that works great until things don't work.
That was me.
And then also, secondly, as a consultant, I work with a lot of different customers, and they all have different workflows. So understanding Git from that point of view, then enables me to help work within their workflows.
I realize now that I was handcuffed by years of using Subversion for everything.
Yeah, it does.
And so that anchored
it's a certain way of thinking. Yeah.
And it's so much simpler, right? And then so I tried to find that same happy path in Git, and so then I never really understood how to.
So I'm learning Git both with Python and LabVIEW at the same time.
Yep.
No, it's a different experience in text-based because you have a lot more options and the diffs are more meaningful.
Well, when I'm doing it in Python and I'm looking at some very complicated software that has a lot of libraries, this, that, and the other, all of a sudden the standard Git workflow that you see where there's 4 different flows and you got your hotfix and you have your developer branch and another branch, that all of a sudden makes perfect sense when I'm in text. And so I'm going to spend a little bit more time there and then port my thinking back to LabVIEW and then see how it works.
Yeah, people do that same workflow in LabVIEW. It works in LabVIEW too.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the one I would recommend, but it's one that people use.
Well, and especially with the I forget what they're called, the runners that you can spin up in GitHub.
Yeah,
You know,
the
and again,
CICD, yeah.
the work that Jim has done, like that's been my experience. Like that begins to get really close to what
Yeah.
you do with text-based languages.
Yes. But to do the CI/CD, I feel like you need some understanding of Git and what's going on, particularly if you want to do like fancy
Yeah.
CI/CD stuff.
Yeah.
Where like, oh, on our feature branch we do this, and when we merge into main we do this, and like this is how we do our releases. So it can get complicated, and understanding Git is like the foundation for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like with the CTI, so blending the conversation that we have going on right now in open source and Git, because I've taken some of the CTI, and then as we mentioned yesterday, and Sam and I used it and taught a LabVIEW course based on it, a few other things. And when I am going to teach the course, I want to print something out. Often somebody's going to want a Word document because there are people that sometimes use Microsoft, occasionally. And right now our document, right now it's in ODT, which is great because that's perfect because then I can edit it
It's
everywhere.
universal format, right?
Yeah, but I like what Fabiola and Enrique have done where they have it in the Markdown so that they can just edit it like literally online.
In the browser,
edit.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it's even with the challenges, we have challenges in LabVIEW and Git, there's even challenges in just documents in Git, where it's not pure text, and we got to think through that.
The concept of merging, going back to that, you know, we all think, oh, merging's hard in LabVIEW. Merging's hard in text-based language.
I was gonna say,
it's mechanically not very difficult.
Right.
It's just text. But it has ramifications. If you've ever worked in an embedded C team where there's 4 or 5 people changing stuff, it's mayhem. They do a merge and everything breaks. And they then just spend the rest of the day arguing. And I always view merging as I mean, you already said it with the modular design. It's a design and communication failure.
But
Generally, if you merge.
it is possible to merge stuff and not have a merge conflict, and Git just does the auto merge and still break your code.
Yeah.
Even in LabVIEW, it's very possible.
Yeah.
So this whole I worked on different branches doesn't necessarily work. If I delete something over here and this code over here is calling it, and I merge those branches, now that VI is gone. And
Yeah.
Git won't say anything to you, but your code will not work.
Yeah.
Which is why the CI/CD is very important.
Yeah.
Because it catches it.
I mean, I've seen some very expensive consultants pay lots of money to help Lockheed do their flight simulation stuff, and they came in and said, "Yeah, branch don't merge." So collected their money and walked out the door.
Well, I will throw something out. You mentioned the huddles thing. I did a thing on mob programming yesterday. And I honestly think one of the better ways to do it is to mob program and just don't branch at all. And then you don't have any merge problems.
Wait. All right. I've heard you mention mob programming before.
Yeah.
Give me the one line.
Mob programming is everybody in the same room, one computer, 5 developers, 10 developers, one person typing, one person telling them what to do. Everybody else is just there. Like as
Can we do
that's like-
can we do an online version? It's like a Zoom meeting.
for mob programming, absolutely.
This I think for the CTI may be the way we can push some of our changes.
Oh, I will totally do it for you all. We'll do it with the. We'll do the demo with the. I do a demo with the video game, and it's super fun. You can talk to anybody who did it, and like super fun, super entertaining. You'll figure it out.
See, I can only really think about the CTI. There's about 5 or 6 pending changes that 5 or 6 people want to do. So why don't we just get together in a meeting and we push them all through? That's a finished thing. Send it on its way.
Well, the other thing that you can kind of eliminate or get rid of with the mob program is like if you have the branches, often you have to do like a pull request or a merge request, and you need somebody to review it, right?
Yeah,
If you've got 5 sets of eyes looking at it, do you necessarily really need that review now? That gets rid of that.
Yeah.
Because you're doing
Yeah.
like a continuous code review. So there's a lot of advantages to it.
Yeah.
Seems pretty expensive though. You better get at least 5x the productivity benefit.
But
Oh,
I'm
I think
certain.
you do, and you get knowledge transfer.
Yeah,
so
that's a key
everybody,
thing.
that's the biggest thing. Everybody knows
That's
what's
the
going on
secret.
on the same page.
Well, in the day we called it extreme programming.
Yeah.
But it
Pair
wasn't.
programming is right.
Well,
It was in a book called Extreme Programming.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so
I remember
Greg,
both, yeah.
That's where we did buddy.
Yeah.
So, but we only did it as a review generally, but the extreme and this is actually writing all the code. But anyway, doing it in pairs when, I think there's times when it makes sense.
Yeah,
When you're
yeah.
getting critical features and and what I'm doing right now today, we're going to be doing some refactoring.
Yeah.
And when we're in the middle of some key pieces of that refactoring, that's exactly when we need to do the mob programming. And there's one individual who really should be writing the code, and then there's another individual who should be giving him the directions. 2 or 3 of us back here, that will solve a lot of problems within that limited context. So it might be a 2-hour project.
And the 3 people back there are also like, they know other parts of the code. And they're like, oh, you're going to do this, but that's going to break that over there. Let's do it differently.
Yeah.
Talk about the value of that is what I have felt a little bit with the open source stuff is you get paralysis by analysis, where everyone's waiting for everyone else to fix the thing they want to fix, so you can fix the thing you want to fix. And there's this, what's the thing in Gantt charts? There's a dependency on each other. Critical path, yeah. So everything's on the critical path, so nobody does anything. And actually, if we all sat together in a Zoom meeting, it wouldn't be as efficient as one person fixing everything, but it's a shitload more efficient than 5 people waiting for each other to fix.
We need to
You've got a thought brewing here.
Well, I was going to say, I think you have to prevent that from turning into design by committee.
Yes.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a bit of
yeah.
So, but I think that's a cultural thing, not.
Yeah. Well, I will play devil's advocate a little bit. So Casey May from Zaya has tried this, and his feedback was that it works really well when you're designing, when it's early in the project and there's a lot of decisions to be made, there's a lot of design work to be done. It works really well for like brainstorming on that. And then he's like, at some point we end up with, we've got 5 tasks, and each of the tasks is really well defined, and so everybody just goes off on their own and does their task. And I would argue there's still value in doing the mob programming and doing the tasks, but like I think that's valid feedback from Casey. And so if
So explain a little bit of what the flow would look like, because I sat in at the beginning of the mob programming. So one guy who's writing the code, the other guy who's telling him what to do, everybody in the room. When you're doing design, because I think the design is being more like brainstorming and putting stickies on whiteboards.
That's more of like I would call that older school, more like design up front waterfall thing, where you do the design and then you do the code. I advocate for a much more modern approach of doing more of like a test-driven development type approach to design, where we kind of have a goal of where we're going, but we're writing code incrementally as we go.
No, my question was not so much about that, because I agree with you 100%, but what does design look like within the mob programming? What Casey did?
Well, I think so. I didn't sit in on the things Casey said. I know exactly how they did it. So, like, if you have a mob, depending on the makeup of the group and like how it works, like you could have everybody who's sitting around, like they could be throwing out ideas, and you could have like that brainstorming type of thing. Or like for me, when I do design, it's more of the tester and all. So I write a test, I write some code, and then I loop around, I keep refactoring, and eventually like the code just kind of looks like, I'm like, look at it, I'm like, oh, that's this pattern. Let's make that official, and let's make that pattern.
So you just organically kind of bottom up arrive at architecture.
It's called like emergent design. So it's like, and you still have some idea, big picture idea, like where you're going, but like you kind of just let it form, and you're like, and like patterns emerge, and you're like, okay, I'm doing this over and over again. I've done this 5 times. Let's turn that into a sub BI now.
Like,
and
it's going for good enough versus perfect, right? Like, and acknowledging you will constantly iterate and improve.
Yeah, and at any point in the cycle, you've got working code. It might not address all the features that you want, but it works and it runs and it builds, and so there's a lot of value in that.
So you don't start with the UML diagram.
No, generally not. I mean, sometimes I'll draw one out on a whiteboard, like if I'm thinking through, like, okay, I need this relationship, how do I get that? Oh, okay, I can do it this way. But
I like UML diagrams.
I like them too, but they never, I think there was always this promise that they would be like, two-way code.
I don't need that.
Like, we all create a UML diagram on a whiteboard, and we're like, this thing talks to this thing, talks to this, blah,
see,
blah,
they're
blah.
really good for that. The casual diagramming, the little, like, here's a small chunk of the system, here's how it works, just to show somebody. They're really good at that.
But they never fulfilled the promise of like, oh, this will be your implementation, and it will be a live reflection. Like
there was an idea that would go both ways. Like you change the code, you change the UML, they change the
There are
UML,
tools that go both ways.
I don't think they work as well as you would like.
No. They are often used as a starting point.
I think they're great from a learning perspective. Like if I'm learning everything,
Documentation.
I think that is good,
exactly. That's where I like them.
Yep.
And it helps me to see somebody else's code. Like if I'm going to go look at somebody's Python code, please give me some diagrams first because I think in diagrams.
Well, the diagrams also go really well with the design patterns and stuff. You can point to the diagram and say, hey, this implements this design pattern. That's why like the patterns in general, like design patterns, just pattern languages are really important.
Yeah.
Because it gives everybody common language to talk about things. And when I say, I don't know, visitor, everybody knows, or whatever some of the other ones, factory pattern, or singleton, like people know what I mean. I don't have to like explain the whole thing.
Exactly.
So.
Oh, Chethan, you crashed the TMiLV. Have we settled on how to pronounce the acronym?
TMiLV.
TMiLV, obviously. TMiLV.
Yeah. So you're on camera.
Say something controversial.
I know. So Chethan is one of our esteemed LabVIEW R&D members. Been with us for 15 years or so. Wow. Okay, so what are you working on these days? What's that?
Am I allowed to tell that?
Yeah, you're allowed to tell that. You just have to talk loud enough for the camera to hear.
Okay. I've been in the main LabVIEW for 15 years ago. Worked on things like the Python node. There are ID exchange features where I started, like label on words, mergers, conditional auto indexing patterns, and a couple of memory implements like the profile buffer allocation.
That's right. So Chethan this morning was the one that spoke up about like, hey, everything you just said, there are better ways to do it potentially.
You might want to repeat just succinctly real quickly what just so that we get the audio.
Yeah, so it sounds like Chethan works on a lot of like profile memory allocation and sensitivity optimization.
System.
Python node is that.
Python
I
node.
like the Python node. Very good job.
Yeah.
There was a tech bridge stack where we introduced the .NET Core intro. I don't know how tech bridge is accessible. Just like the .NET framework intro, we had the .NET Core intro in 24 Q3 tech bridge.
Okay, so that was a tech preview. That's a tech preview in the current shipping version class.
So I have a question with .NET Core. What will it take to get that available on Linux? Or is that already available? Like as far as like, if I write something using .NET Core on Windows, can I then port it to Linux and it will run? Or is that in the roadmap?
There are two parts to it, right? I mean, your assembly itself would run on Linux because Microsoft supports it.
Okay.
Right? I don't know the compatibility of these things, like what percentage of APIs are supported, but I would assume that most things are supported.
Okay.
And then there is the interop with LabVIEW, where LabVIEW can load up an assembly and call functions and pass data. That is not in there, but I don't think it's like a huge amount of effort. I think because we have done Python, we have done it on Windows, I think putting these pieces together it should be fairly doable.
So
it's not a
so
committed-
it's not a promise or anything?
Right.
It would be reasonable to expect that in the next
If you
couple
ask
of
Gary,
years.
he will say,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had trouble
Anything's
hearing
possible.
too. What are we getting in the next couple days here?
No, next couple releases.
Releases?
The feasibility done is support on Linux was the topic.
Yeah, it is feasible.
Yeah.
It is feasible, and so and I was aware of it. And at some
I
point
think,
we may see that.
as I said
Not with it.
when I spoke earlier, I want to make the point, NI is definitely increasing investment in LabVIEW as we shift our focus back to our core products. That said, I think we still have to be purposeful and vigilant about where we put our limited resources. So like
Yeah,
that
you
goes
don't
into the
want to make
hopper.
any unintentional commitments or anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that goes into the hopper. There's a lot of things that we're trying to achieve. I think right now there's a big focus on security, some of the collaborative workflows, CI/CD. I wish I had my list in front of me.
I have two questions for you as far as the
But
roadmap.
there's a lot of things.
And it really is exciting. So I have two questions. One, if you want to go back to the question on the G Web Development Toolkit, because there was a question in the sessions yesterday.
Got put on the spot.
And so we're going to put you on the spot again.
That's fine.
And you can say, I'll answer, I won't. And then the other question, if you could speak to, is where is NI R&D going in general, just with the whole kind of cloud infrastructure? Because you go back to a few NI Connects back before NI re-embraced our NI's core of LabVIEW. Plenty of sessions of all these great things that will be done in the cloud, and you can do this in the cloud and that in the cloud in the future state, blah, blah, blah. And then that group kind of got disbanded before the merger or in the middle of the merger, or at least a key leader was no longer at NI. So can you speak to cloud and G-Web?
Yeah, so when anyone mentions cloud or enterprise data infrastructure, I mean, my head goes straight to System Link. And System Link is very much the foundational technology driving all of our, for lack of a better way to describe it, cloud-related software infrastructure, right? Connectivity of all these different client systems, deployment, the data aggregation, the displays, configuration management workflows. Like there's so much, lab management workflows. So I think we've been talking about System Link for many, many years, and it is very much a huge focus of investment for us and for the company around facilitation of those workflows, and really like achieving scale in terms of enterprise class solutions, while also acknowledging I think not all of our customers have enterprise scale IT. So a big part of our investment there is to make sure that we can serve the small to medium businesses as well as the large scale enterprises. So that would be the thing I would point to as like that is where anything pertaining to cloud resides.
Reside right there. Okay, got it. Okay.
And then and you mentioned GWeb. One point as a segue is we're integrating Tableau as a data presentation tool, which I think is obviously become a very popular standard for that. The question about GWeb, GWeb was just integrated into the LabVIEW Plus bundle. It's still very much a supported and available product. My comment in the question that was put to me is I think we view it as it does what we set out for it to do. And I think we're still kind of waiting to understand at some scale how people intend to use it and where they see limitations that inform what the roadmap for it should be.
Okay.
In other words, I think there are certainly some vocal people that have very vocal feedback.
Right, yeah.
But I think
you need broader adoption in a variety of different applications and domains to really, for NI to get the feedback to start having that picture.
Thank you for interpreting for me. Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think I personally find it to be a very exciting, compelling tool. I think what it does is amazing. I mean, it basically makes web programming accessible to anyone who knows LabVIEW. But I think there were some valid points around like how you communicate with other applications. Is there's other ways we can make that better. But yeah, I think we're still in a wait and see mode.
Okay.
And candidly, like all the things we have to work on right now, there are other things that
There's some more core things that need to be done that impact every single customer as opposed to this niche.
Yeah, I would just think it might be worth doing some research on why people aren't using it, because maybe there's some like blockers that are just causing a lack of adoption, and you're not hearing about that. So.
Right, like is it really a minimum viable product such that like you get that
I don't
quorum?
know. I don't know.
That's a fair point. I again find it being incredibly compelling software.
So I'm doing a time check. Everybody good till 3:45?
Sure.
Okay, because I know already everyone here is going to go lead a huddle or talk to more customers or something along those lines. So yeah, so we got about 7 more minutes. So I don't really have any other very specific questions because I think we've covered a lot, but I just want to turn it over to you guys. What else do you want to say or ask or...
it's dangerous to give me a mic, right?
Yeah, I think it's very dangerous.
No, so I'll pair it some of the...
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because since I am the moderator, I get to interrupt people.
Sure.
So have you moderated the LabVIEW experiment?
I was on the LabVIEW experiment.
It was Norm that moderated when you were sick.
Norm moderated, yes.
Moderated, yeah, exactly.
No,
so
but
maybe we give you the mic for the LabVIEW experiment sometime.
That's up to
I'm
this
usurping
guy over
Sam's.
here. I'm sure she
Taylor's role, so you gotta okay that with Taylor. I don't do anything without okay.
No, well, so I'd be happy to do that, but I'll use it as a segue. So one of the things, actually, that was inspired by GDevCon NA, was I was talking with an attendee there, and he was like, "Man, I'm so glad I came because I got 10 minutes with Greg Richardson, other Greg, and he taught me so much about the inner workings of LabVIEW." And he's like, I wish that knowledge was more readily available. I've heard similar comments around, like when these guys do interface with customers, I think their knowledge is so deep and very appreciated. And I want to make that more readily accessible to our customers. So, first of all,
I'm going to tap off of that real quickly because that used to be the topic of a lot of sessions at NI Week back in the day because all of us were still learning. And we need more of that as everybody else is learning. So
a couple points on that. One, come to GDevCon, we'll be bringing more R&D folks out. But two, is, first off, at the highest level of our executive team, it's been actually mandated that we want our engineers out in customer-facing roles more often.
Right.
That's part of the new job skills
Thank you for
matrix. And that comes, I think, from Dan Cronin, maybe or two also. But then to that end, I actually, if you are familiar with the NI Apps YouTube channel, we're going to be launching a playlist on there where I'm going to moderate basically interviews with R&D experts. And so first up is probably going to be Greg and memory and under the compiler, like how the compiler works, how it allocates memory. Maybe we'll have both Gregs, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But we have a list of topics. And so I think it joins hopefully the ecosystem of all these other great podcasts, but its unique angle is like, let's tap into the unique knowledge of the engineers inside the walls of NI and get that into the greater world so that people can see that, learn from that. So we have topics.
Well, I have an idea. Would it be worthwhile to submit your questions forward?
I was about to say.
Okay, yeah. Like either have a guest on or have a way to submit questions, and then you can read some of the questions that people have for.
I was going to say, have a guest for a topic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's always gonna be a guest. It's gonna be me interviewing somebody like.
No, but I mean
No, but
you and then
yeah.
somebody from the community. Either questions from the community. If you don't want to have another community member on, like have everybody submit questions. Be like, here are the top 3 questions or something.
I like that.
Yeah, that way you get like the community asking questions too.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
The link to NI Apps
Oh, that's a good idea.
in the Discord channel.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's something that I'm excited to do.
I'm excited about that too because I used to know it and understand it, but it's been a while. So it'll be really nice to revisit.
And then I guess the other shameless plug, if you don't mind, is I also threw up one
You
of
have
many.
2 left, so this is 1 of 2.
One of 2. I threw up a bunch of QR codes in my presentation. One of them is we're really trying to support and facilitate as many user groups as we can. Last count is I think we're actively working with 54 globally.
That's awesome.
And so in many ways, this is kind of the user group of all user groups. But user groups are really meant to be like an opportunity to get together with your colleagues, people who also use LabVIEW, talk through common challenges, network. Like I think that's one of the most valuable aspects. And so I think a lot of those atrophied because of COVID and various other factors. And so NI is here to support if it means like helping promote the event, paying for food or beer or whatever.
Whoa. Did I just hear that?
I heard you've already bought food for somebody.
Did I just hear that
Whatever.
NI is paying for food?
Hang on. Whatever it takes to get people in a room talking to each other again. I think
Free
it's way
pizza.
more valuable. We care about
Pizza
scale.
does attract people.
You know what? Honestly, it's probably even more of a selling point is we'll send our people out. If you want somebody from NI, like myself, like Greg, to
That's
come talk
huge. Yeah,
about
that is
a
Yeah,
roadmap.
that is huge. Yeah.
We can't, it's very important these user groups be community led. Like they can't become reliant on NI sending people.
Yeah.
And I think there's more value in the exchange of ideas amongst users themselves. But in many cases, people are just kind of thirsty for like, hey guys, what's the plan? And so we can help scratch that.
Well, maybe just to kick it off, right? Like the very first meeting.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's what
here's
we've
the
been doing a
attraction.
lot.
Here's an NI person.
Another
Just
cool
pick
thing.
it up.
Sorry.
Okay, you get your last one, and then I get.
It's in product promotions. We have this little pop-up dialogue down that appears in LabVIEW that says, hey, there's a user group nearby you
No,
coming up
I
in a
think
few
that's
weeks.
awesome. Yes.
great.
We
Okay.
talked about that yesterday.
So if you want that, contact me. Maybe we'll put a link in the description below.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you can do that, here's what I wanted, and we looked into seeing whether or not we could do it with the existing infrastructure like about 2 years ago, and that is I want to be able to see here are all the user groups
Yep.
that are going to be going on because we might be traveling somewhere, and there's a user group secondarily.
We just launched a page for that yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
I'll put a link in the description below.
Okay, link in the description below. The second thing I want is I would love to see a handful of those user groups be streamed user groups so that I then, not all of
I
them.
want them in person. I'm almost inclined to turn off the streams and make them get more.
I said a couple.
All right.
Because, yes, a lot of people will not stream for the purpose of we want everybody in the room. I agree with that. But occasionally, it would be nice to have maybe one a quarter is streamed, and it's a topic that,
Well, like the one in France, they invite the colleagues from Canada who are French speaking. Like there are reasons where it
the
makes
LabVIEW
sense.
Architect Summit,
Yeah.
So there'll be reasons why. So anyhow,
As long as people aren't like multitasking and in a user group, right?
yeah, understood completely. We have about 60 seconds left. Final thoughts or
2015 to 2020 is well